What's happening? Happy Monday to all of you. Thanks for joining me. As always, it is much appreciated. Everything Pats, a New England Patriots podcast with you over the next 30 minutes or so. I want to talk about Rhamondre Stevenson. I want to talk about the analytical department that the Patriots are building up over the past couple of weeks. You know, there's been tons of focus, and rightfully so, on Drake May and Josh McDaniels. Others from this offense, though, have pressure on them. And one of those people that has pressure on them is Rhamondre Stevenson. Rhamondre Stevenson has a lot of pressure on him as we get ready for the 2025 season in just a few months. And when you look at Rhamondre, I found this interesting. Pro Football Focus had a story over the past couple of weeks about their top 10 players with the most to prove. This was written by Zoltan Budaj. And Budaj wrote that Rhamondre Stevenson is actually one of the top 10 players in the NFL that has the most to prove this year. Here's what he wrote. Stevenson started his career well with the Patriots, earning Pro Football Focus overall grades of 81.8 and 81.3 in his first 2 years, both of which ranked 10th at the position. He also averaged 4.6 yards per carry as a rookie, 5 yards per carry in his second season. However, Stevenson has been unable to get back to that level in the 2 seasons since then. The Oklahoma product averaged just 4 yards a carry in 2023 and 3.9 yards per carry in 2024. This past season, he earned a 69.6 PFF overall grade, which ranked just 35th among 59 qualifying running backs, largely due to his 7 fumbles. So when you look at Rhamondre Stevenson, his first 2 years in the league, Pro Football Focus ranked him as a top 10 running back. The last 2 seasons, he has started to fall back on that list. And last year, with the 69.6 PFF overall grade, he ranked 35th out of 59 running backs. Obviously, not good enough. And the Patriots need Rhamondre Stevenson to be better than that. So let's start here. I'm actually optimistic about Rhamondre Stevenson individually. I think Rhamondre Stevenson is capable of having a very good year. And I think he's ready to have a very good year if everything was up to him. I truly believe this. Why do I feel like Rhamondre individually should create some optimism? Well, let's start with the offensive coordinator. The return of Josh McDaniels is big time for Stevenson. If you look at what McDaniels loves to do, he loves to run the football downhill. He loves duo concepts, and that's what Rhamondre does best. Rhamondre is at his best as a downhill runner in the duo concept run game. So scheme-wise, this is going to be a much better fit for Dre than it was last year. Last year, you had Alex Van Pelt running the West Coast offense, and zone run game isn't necessarily what Stevenson is great at. Even though Stevenson said before the season kicked off last year that he felt like the system was going to fit him and he felt like he was a perfect fit for the scheme, that ended up not necessarily being true. So Josh McDaniels bringing back a lot of the same offense we saw in 2021. He brings that run game back. Stevenson fits. He fits perfectly. And you just look at the numbers. Back in 2021, in Stevenson's rookie season, we just went over the Pro Football Focus grade, 81.1. 81.1 was the PFF overall grade in his rookie season. In Rhamondre's rookie season, he was considered by Pro Football Focus to be a top 10 running back. Who was his offensive coordinator during his rookie season? Yes, indeed, it was Josh McDaniels, to go along with other rookies like Mac Jones making a difference for that offense. But Stevenson, with McDaniels as his OC in 21, had an 81.1 grade. He also averaged over 4.5 yards a carry. I wouldn't be surprised if Rhamondre Stevenson could bring that same kind of productivity and overall PFF grade back to his game in 2025. He reportedly showed up in great shape. I was watching NBC Sports Boston over the last few days, and I saw that Mike Giardi mentioned that Rhamondre looked like he was in the best shape that he's been in quite some time. Dre showed up to camp ready. He showed up physically prepared for the season, which means, to me, He's taking this very seriously. He is well aware that last year he didn't have a good enough season. I don't know if he's aware that he ranked 35th according to Pro Football Focus at his position, but I can guarantee you Rhamondre knows he didn't have a good year. Why? Because he had 7 fumbles. Just off the top, 7 fumbles. He knows that's not as good as I can be, and I need to be a lot better. So he has an offensive coordinator that fits him better as a runner. He shows up to camp looking like he's in great shape, so he's physically ready. And he also knows that he has legitimate competition. Antonio Gibson, I love Antonio Gibson as a football player, and I really like that signing by Elliott Wolf last year. But Rhamondre Stevenson also got his extension last offseason. Dre was not worried about Antonio Gibson. Dre was not concerned with Gibson taking some of his snaps. But now you've got TreVeyon Henderson. You see that the team spends a top 40 pick at your position. That's going to make you understand quickly that you have to have some urgency about your play. When Henderson gets drafted in the top 40 by the Patriots, that is a sign not only to Henderson that they love him and Drake May that they want to continue to build this offense and all that stuff, but that is also a sign. It's a signal to Dre. We just used a top 40 pick on your position, Rhamondre. You've got to step up, because if you don't step up, you know for a fact we will easily put TreVeyon Henderson in your spot, and we can roll with Henderson and Gibson if you want to keep fumbling the football and not produce. So Rhamondre knows he had a bad year last year. He knows he's got a new head coach that he has to impress to keep his job. He's got to show his worth to Mike Vrabel. He doesn't have the established relationship like he had with Gerard Mayo or Bill Belichick. He has a new head coach that he has to impress. And he's got a top 40 pick at his position walking into camp, and everybody is excited about Henderson and his explosiveness and what he can bring. And that's going to bring, I believe, urgency. That's going to bring urgency to Rhamondre's approach. I would not be surprised that part of the reason why Rhamondre is in great shape is because he saw Henderson getting drafted with a top 40 pick. That urgency began in late April because he has to understand if he falls back again, he might be out of a job. And so competition brings out the best. Henderson being in camp, competing with Rhamondre should bring out the best of Stevenson. Another reason why that I could believe Rhamondre individually is ready to have a good season is because of the head coach. When Mike Vrabel has conversations with the media, he's always selling what? He's always selling effort and finish. On the offensive side of the football, he wants effort and finish. And so when you think about Dre and you think about his style of football, I think about effort and finish. How many times have we seen Stevenson take an initial hit, bounce off the hit, and get another 3 or 4 yards? How many times have we seen Stevenson somehow stay on his feet with great balance and make something out of nothing? I've seen that happen so many times during his Patriots career. It's because he plays with effort. How many times have we seen him finish a run, running through somebody? That's finish. So when we talk about effort and finish, one of the players on this team that I think is perfectly crafted for that kind of football, and I just have to imagine Vrabel loves watching him run, is Stevenson. That effort and finish. However, I do have concerns because even though I have optimism about Rhamondre himself as an individual football player, I have some concerns that might get in the way, some obstacles that might get in the way of Rhamondre Stevenson having a good season. I'll get to those things in just a couple of seconds, but first, don't forget to click that thumbs up. Every single like helps us with the algorithm, so don't forget to like the podcast, the live stream if you're watching right now. If you're watching on demand, you can still click that thumbs up to help us, so don't forget to like. Don't forget to throw your comment in there. Of course, comments help us with the algorithm. Charlie wishing everybody a happy Monday. Fantastic by him. So don't forget to like, don't forget to comment, and don't forget to subscribe as we continue to march towards 7,000 subscribers. All right, here are two significant questions that I have about Stevenson and the type of season that he could have with this offense. The first question that I have actually does have to do with Stevenson himself, and that is whether or not the fumbleitis is gone. Is the fumbleitis out of his system? Are we going to see the same kind of Rhamondre as we saw last year? Capable of giving you a good run, equally capable of fumbling the football and giving it to the opposition. Now, what's interesting is last year's fumble problems, that was not a unique thing for Rhamondre. Rhamondre has had some fumble issues in the past. When you look at his NFL career, in 2021, he only had 2 fumbles. So a decent season, right? But in 2022, he had 4 fumbles. Twice as many fumbles in his second year than his rookie year. In 2023, he straightened that out. He only had 1 fumble in 2023. And then last year, of course, as we know, was the disaster with the 7 fumbles. Mike Vrabel has said he doesn't put all of those 7 fumbles on Rhamondre Stevenson, but you still can't fumble the football 7 times if you want to be a starting caliber NFL running back. You just can't do it. So you look at the fumble numbers, 2 to 4 to 1 to 7. Maybe it's an odd year kind of thing. Maybe Rhamondre takes better care of the football when it's an odd year. And thankfully, 2025 is an odd numbered year. So in 21, he only had 2 fumbles. In 23, he only had 1 fumble. Hopefully that means in 2025, he'll have 1 fumble, 2 fumbles, maybe no fumbles. It's the even numbered years that have killed him. He's had 11 fumbles combined between 2022 and 2024. So maybe, just maybe, the odd year history will tell us that Rhamondre will not have trouble fumbling the football this season, because you know it and I know it. If Rhamondre has more fumbling problems and it starts early in the season, Mike Vrabel is going to sit him down. Mike Vrabel has absolutely no problem keeping players accountable. And Drake May mentioned this a week or 2 ago to the media, that Vrabel lets players know if you mess up, there's going to be consequences. So that weird thing that happened last year with Gerard Mayo when Stevenson was supposed to sit, but he didn't sit, that's not going to happen with Vrabel. If Dre can't take care of the football, he's going to be sitting. There's no doubt about it in my mind. He knows that. I know it. We all know it. So he has to take care of the football. But here's the second thing that I'm concerned about regarding Rhamondre and whether or not he can get going in 2025. The offensive line has improved. When we look at the roster, we look at it on paper, the offensive line has more talent on it than it had last year. However, I have major questions about this team's ability to run block. Major questions. And I've got some numbers as to why I have questions. I want to look at PFF's O-line run grades for each Patriot. And right now, it seems like if the season was going to start tomorrow, you would have Campbell at left tackle, Strange at left guard, Bradbury at center, Owenu at right guard, and Moses at right tackle. So let's just look at those 5 guys. Let's look at those 5 offensive linemen, and let's look at Pro Football Focus and how they graded those 5 offensive linemen when it comes to run blocking. Will Campbell, obviously, hasn't played a game in the NFL just yet, but we can look at Campbell's 2024 at LSU, and Pro Football Focus had Campbell graded as a 69.7 run blocker. That is below average. So last year at LSU, PFF tells us Campbell was a below average run blocker. How about Cole Strange? Here's some good news. Cole Strange, if you look back at 2023, because last year was a lost season, if you look back at 2023, right before Cole Strange got injured, from week 10 to week 13, so that 4-week period, Cole Strange was actually the second best run blocker in the league. His run blocking grade was 85.5, but that's back in 2023. Is he fully healthy? Is he the same guy? Can we expect him to block that well in the run game as he was blocking from weeks 10 to 13 in 2023 before he tore his patellar? We don't know. Garrett Bradbury, good news. Bradbury's pretty much right in the middle of the pack when it comes to run blocking. The biggest question about Bradbury, as we've talked about, we've covered it, is his pass protection. But last year, Bradbury was the 14th best center run blocking. His grade was a 70.7. But then we get to Onwenu and Moses, the right side of the offensive line. And I've got concerns. Mike Onwenu last year was ranked 95th among guards in run blocking, 57.5. Morgan Moses was ranked 71st in tackles when it comes to run block rate at 60.6. So let's recap that. Will Campbell at LSU last year, below average run blocker, 69.7. Cole Strange, last 4 weeks, heading right into his injury in 2023, he was really good at 85.5, but is he that same guy? Bradbury right in the middle of the pack, but then your right side of the offensive line, both Onwenu and Moses, according to PFF, were absolutely terrible at run blocking. That's an issue. It's obviously an issue. Onwenu ranked 95th and Moses ranked 71st. So my biggest question is, can this offensive line block for Stevenson and Henderson and Gibson, but mostly Stevenson? Can they block for him? Campbell below average, Bradbury average, Onwenu and Moses terrible. Now, of course, they might be able to correct that. They might be better this year with different coaching, different scheme, whatever. But I'm just telling you, going into 2025, if you're basing this off of what this offensive line did in the run game in 2024, there's a lot of questions there as to whether or not they can block well enough to produce in the run game. And we'll see what they look like in camp. We'll see what they look like in joint practices. And maybe, just maybe, 2024 will be a thing of the past and everybody will be better. But if you're going off history, recent history, Onwenu and Moses, those guys have to be much better, or you're not going to be able to run to the right side of the offensive line. And you best hope that Cole Strange reverts back to 2023. So some major questions about the run blocking. All right, let's get to something quick here. I want to talk about the analytics department because the Patriots continue to add when it comes to analytical minds within the front office. And this is something that they had not always done. They'd actually stayed away from the analytics department for the most part. But Seth Walder over the weekend from ESPN posted that the Patriots hired Max Mulitz as personnel analytics coordinator. Mulitz previously worked as director coaching analytics for the Dolphins. And Mark Daniels at Mass Live writes, under Mike Vrabel, the Patriots have invested in the analytics department. The team recently hired director of coaching analytics Ekene Olekanma, who joins director of football strategy Marshall Uam and director of research Richard Miller. And let's not forget that Stretch, John Stryker, is also a huge part and a big-time influence when it comes to analytics. So now you've got Mulitz, you've got Olekanma, you've got you've got Miller, and you've got Stretch. You now have 5 employees that are at least in part going to be devoted to analytics. The Patriots, really throughout the days of Bill Belichick, you're talking about like one dude. You're talking about like one guy who was part of that department, and that's Richard Miller. Oh, and by the way, we can add somebody else too. We have Joe McDonald. Joe McDonald is the former Red Sox employee, the former Red Sox executive that the Patriots brought over to help with analytics. So you can now add 6. You can now add 6 people in that department. From my count, you've got Mulitz, you've got Olekanma, you've got you've got Miller, you've got Stretch, and you've got McDonald. So there are as many as 6 human beings now dealing with analytics for the Patriots. That is a gigantic leap from where this team had been. That's a whole new world. It's frankly like evolution happening within this Patriots front office. You go from like 1 analytics guy to 6 analytic guys in a matter of a year and a half. I mean, that's just a major jump. And it's obviously an emphasis for the Patriots to continue to load up in the analytics department, to address things that they had not addressed for so many years, for decades with Belichick, where you would have like one dude. This is a different world. And look at who they're poaching. Their first big poach was from San Francisco with Olekanma. Then they have a second big poach, and that's from Miami. I don't think it's a coincidence that you have Mike McDaniel, Kyle Shanahan, those types of teams, and you're plucking guys from those analytical departments to put them into your new analytical department. And so I can't speak any more highly of this idea of we have to evolve. If you don't evolve, you die. And the Patriots are finally evolving. Burt Breer, I'm going to give Burt a lot of credit for this. He's been harping on the analytics aspect of the Patriots for the last couple of years. And Burt has talked about how this team has failed to address analytics and how they haven't put money into analytics and they haven't put bodies, they haven't brought personnel in to address analytics. And Mike Vrabel, from really day one, from his introductory press conference, Vrabel has emphasized that they were going to work with analytics. And it's obvious that that's what they're doing, because they have now hired multiple individuals to come into this department and give it a boost, a much needed boost. And this process actually began with Wolf, because Elliott Wolf brought in McDonald. McDonald, again, hired from the Red Sox. He was hired in December, well before Vrabel was with this team. So Wolf started this process. Wolf saw it and said, we need to get more people in the analytics department. And he brought McDonald in. And then Vrabel comes over, and Vrabel brings Stretch with him. And now Vrabel and Wolf, over the past couple of months, have hired 2 or 3 other guys. And these guys, they're not jokes. I mean, when you look at who they're bringing in, Olekanma and Mulitz, both of those guys had really good titles. Mulitz had a good title with the Dolphins, the director of coaching analytics. I don't have Olekanma. I don't have his title with San Francisco, not off the top of my head, but he was with San Francisco for a couple of years, originally coming from Baltimore. He had a pretty good title with the Niners. So the Patriots are not only hiring to help build their analytical department, they're bringing in guys that have experience in the NFL, have good titles with the teams that they were with, which means you're paying them some pretty decent money. So they're investing. The Patriots are finally investing in analytics. Joe McDonald, according to Joseph Pasteris, is going to have a more prominent role in the front office in 2025. So they're investing in analytics. Thank God. Beginning with Wolf in December, bringing McDonald over, and then slowly but surely over the past couple of months, they have continued to add personnel, continue to add talent in that front office, and continue to address the obvious shortcomings of the analytical department. All good stuff. I love that the Patriots are finally understanding that they were behind the times and that they needed to evolve. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to comment. Don't forget to subscribe. Help us with the algorithm. I appreciate every single one of you and your support of this podcast, whether you watch live, whether you watch on demand, doesn't matter. I appreciate every single one of you. Like, comment, subscribe, Spotify, Apple Pods, rate and review. That helps us. Throw a comment in as well. But I can't say enough. I can't say enough of your support. I know we're in the middle of June. Tends to be the dead time, is what it is. trying to give you the best content I can give you during the slow time. Today, we hit the running backs. We hit the analytical department. I'm sure we'll have a lot more coming up on Wednesday at 3 o'clock. Until then, every single one of you, be well.